I checked every chart that night 11 patients total, but in the dark corner of the ward, I found a 12th, with no record of ever being admitted. It was close to 2 in the morning, the hour when the ICU feels less like a ward and more like a tomb. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm. The smell of antiseptic hung heavy in the air, and every step echoed against the tile floor. Nights like these usually dragged on in silence, but silence had a weight of its own. It pressed on my shoulders, made me aware of every flicker of the fluorescent lights above me. I carried the census sheet in my pocket, checked it twice, even 3 times. 11 beds occupied, all accounted for. Bed numbers 1 through 11. And yet, when I passed the final room at the end of the hall, I heard at an extra monitor, faint but distinct, the slow, irregular beeping of a heart under strain. At first, I thought it was a trick of fatigue. Long hours do strange things to your mind. But the sound persisted, pulling me toward room 12. That room hadn't been used in months. It was supposed to be storage, stacked with broken IV, poles, and extra linens. I reached for the handle, hesitating when a chill passed through me. The door creaked as it opened. Inside, the room was dim, lit only by the pale glow of a single monitor. And on the bed, connected to oxygen and 4 lines, was a man. Middle-aged, thin, his skin ashen beneath the tubes and tape. His eyes were closed, but his chest rose and fell in perfect rhythm with the beeping. I froze. This shouldn't have been possible. I checked his wristband standard hospital issue, printed with a barcode. But where the name should have been, there was only a blank strip of white. No date of birth, no medical record number. I scanned it with my handheld device. The screen blinked, then displayed 2 words that made my stomach drop. Nitrogen monoxide data. I pulled the chart from the end of the bed, desperate for an answer. It was empty, every page blank. The air in the room grew heavier, as though the walls were holding their breath. I stepped closer, listening to the man's breathing, the mechanical hiss of the ventilator. My medical instincts told me to check his vitals, but my hands wouldn't move. This wasn't medicine. This was something else. Then, without warning, his eyelids fluttered. Slowly, deliberately, he opened his eyes. And in the dim glow of the monitor, those eyes locked onto mine. "I was waiting for you," he whispered. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. His words were soft, but the weight of them pinned me where I stood. "I was waiting for you." I opened my mouth to ask who he was, but no sound came out. My throat was dry, as though the air itself had burned away. The monitor continued its steady beeping, indifferent to the strangeness unfolding. I forced myself to move, backing out of the room and nearly stumbling into the hallway. My heart hammered against my ribs. I needed someone else to see this. At the nurse's station, Ramirez looked up from her notes, eyebrows raised. "Doctor, you look like you've seen a ghost." There's someone in room 12, I stammered. Her expression faltered. "Room 12? Yes, a man. Middle-aged, ventilated, hooked up to monitors. He spoke to me." She blinked at me, confusion hardening into concern. "Doctor, room 12 is empty. It's been closed since last year." I shook my head, the paper census still clenched in my hand. "No, listen to me. I saw him. I heard him. There's a patient in there." Ramirez rose slowly, as though approaching a frightened animal. "Show me." I led her down the corridor, pulse racing. The sound of the monitor echoed faintly in my ears, even before I opened the door. But when I pushed it wide, the room was exactly as it should have been: dark, silent, filled with unused equipment. The bed was bare, the monitor unplugged, no patient, no trace of anyone ever being there. Ramirez glanced at me, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Doctor, you need rest. You've been on shift for nearly 20 hours. Fatigue can cause." "I know what I saw," I snapped, harsher than intended. My voice cracked in the silence. She didn't argue further, just gave me a look I'd seen before, the look staff give when they don't trust their attending anymore. Then she walked away, her shoes squeaking against the tile. I stood in the empty room, staring at the barren bed. My chest tightened. Had I really imagined it? No, the wristband, the blank chart, the words he spoke. That couldn't have been hallucination. I closed the door slowly, retreating to my office. My hands shook as I opened my laptop, pulling up the hospital census once more. 11 patients, not 12. But when I listened closely, beneath the hum of the air conditioning and the distant footsteps of staff, I swore I could still hear it, the faint, steady beeping of a monitor, and it was coming from room 12. I tried to bury myself in charts, in lab values, in the normal rhythm of intensive care, but nothing quieted the thought gnawing at me. I wasn't wrong. There was a 12th patient. I had seen him. I had heard him. By 3 in the morning, exhaustion blurred my vision, but still, I couldn't leave it alone. I told myself I'd check one last time. If the room was empty, I'd accept it was stress, fatigue, maybe even some cruel trick of the mind. But if he was there again... The corridor was darker than usual, the fluorescents flickering overhead. Each step echoed louder than it should have. When I reached room 12, my hand trembled on the handle. The door opened with a groan. He was there. The man lay exactly as before, thin, pale chest, rising beneath the hiss of the ventilator. The monitor blinked steadily beside him, a rhythm only I seemed able to hear. This time, I forced myself closer. My pulse pounded as I reached for the chart at the foot of the bed. Blank as before. No history, no medications, no physician's notes. I whispered, "Who are you?" His eyelids fluttered. Slowly, his head turned toward me. His eyes opened, dark and hollow, yet sharp enough to pin me in place. His lips moved beneath the oxygen mask, and though the sound was little more than air, I heard the word as clearly as if it had been spoken inside my head. Daniel. The name hit me with a jolt, though I didn't know why. I scanned my memory, my files, my past patients. Nothing. No Daniel who fit this man's face. "Daniel what?" I pressed, my voice low. He coughed, the ventilator hissing louder, and whispered again. "Daniel Cole." I stumbled back, the name burning in my mind. There was no record, no admission, yet he gave me a full name as if daring me to look it up. The monitor quickened. Beep, beep, beep. His eyes held mine with desperate intensity. Then he mouthed another phrase, almost inaudible. "You were supposed to save me." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" But his eyelids closed again, his body sinking into stillness. The monitor slowed back to its steady rhythm. I stood there, heart hammering, the name echoing in my head, Daniel Cole. When I finally tore myself away, I rushed back to my office, opened the hospital database, and typed it in. One result appeared. A patient admitted 6 months ago. Severe trauma. Cardiac arrest on arrival. Declared dead in the IQ. Room 12. The hospital database glowed on my laptop screen. The name staring back at me, Daniel Cole. Admitted 6 months ago. Trauma patient. Cardiac arrest. Declared dead in the ICU specifically, room 12. My stomach churned as I scrolled through the file. It was skeletal, almost insultingly bare for someone who'd fought for his life here. Admitted at 2247. Vitals unstable. Multiple lacerations, blunt force trauma. Arrested on arrival. Pronounced at 2318. That was it. No detailed notes. No scans. No family contacts. No attending physician listed, though every patient has one. His file ended like a sentence cut in half. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. "You were supposed to save me." His words rattled in my skull. 6 months ago, I wasn't even on service in the IQI, and been covering the EA. How could he possibly mean me? But the more I stared at the file, the more wrong it felt. This wasn't sloppy documentation. This was erased documentation. Someone had stripped his record down to the bare minimum. I copied the file number, tried to access the archived imaging system. Nitrogen monoxide data. The screen blinked back at me. I checked the medication records. Nitrogen monoxide data. Blood work, pathology, nursing notes all missing. A cold sweat broke across my skin. Someone had wiped Daniel Cole clean. The faintest sound drifted through the hall outside. Beep, beep, beep. My head snapped up. I slammed the laptop shut and forced myself back toward room 12. The door was already ajar. Inside, Daniel lay as before, his chest rising faintly under the ventilator. But this time, the chart at the foot of his bed wasn't blank. My hands trembled as I flipped it open. One page, one line, written in hurried scrawl. "Dr. Morgan, where were you?" I froze, my name carved across the paper in handwriting I didn't recognize. The monitor quickened, the rhythm rising like a racing heart. Daniel's eyes opened, locking onto mine with a sharpness that pinned me to the floor. His lips formed the words again, stronger this time. "You were supposed to save me." My throat tightened. "I wasn't here. I didn't even treat you." But his stare didn't waver. His hand lifted weakly from the bed, one finger pointing not at me, but at the door behind me. I turned. Ramirez stood in the doorway, pale as paper. She glanced at the bed, then back at me. "Doctor," she whispered, "why are you talking to an empty room?" For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. Ramirez's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her wide, cautious, like someone speaking to a dangerous man. "Empty?" I whispered. I turned back to the bed. Daniel was there. I saw him thin, pale, eyes burning into mine. The monitor beeped in rhythm with his shallow breaths. His hand still hovered in the air, pointing toward the door. But when Ramirez stepped closer, her gaze slid across the room as if she were looking at bare walls and an unused bed. "You need rest, doctor," she said carefully. "There's no one here. Room 12 has been locked for months." "No," I snapped, the word harsher than I intended. "He's right here. You don't see him?" Her silence was an answer. She only looked at me, pity and fear warring in her eyes. I wanted to drag her closer, to force her to touch the monitor, hear the beeping, see the man lying there. But the truth pressed against my ribs. To her, the room was empty. To me, it wasn't. Which one of us was losing our grip? I swallowed hard and forced my voice calm. "Ramirez, do you remember a patient named Daniel Cole?" Her face went pale instantly. That reaction told me everything. "You do," I pressed. "He was admitted 6 months ago. Trauma. Died in this very room." She shook her head quickly. "You shouldn't be digging into this." "Why not?" I demanded. Her eyes darted down the hall, making sure no one was near. When she finally looked at me again, her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Because Daniel Cole was wrong. His death wasn't supposed to happen the way it did." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "I mean," she said, swallowing hard, "someone made it disappear. The paperwork, the scans, everything. We were told to never speak his name again, to erase him." The beeping behind me quickened. Daniel's eyes gleamed with something between rage and desperation. I could almost feel his stare burning through the back of my skull. "Erase him?" I echoed. Ramirez nodded once, her voice shaking. "Because someone here killed him." The monitor flatlined. I spun around. The bed was empty. The empty bed mocked me. Only moments ago, Daniel's body had lain there, his eyes boring into mine, the monitor alive with sound. Now nothing. Sheets smooth, monitor dark, room bare, as if no one had touched it in months. I stumbled back, my pulse pounding in my ears. "You saw him," I hissed to Ramirez. "Don't lie to me, you saw him." Her expression didn't change. Calm, practiced. "I saw an empty room," she repeated. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. I narrowed my eyes. "You knew his name. You reacted before I told you more. You know what happened to him." Ramirez's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, she looked ready to speak. Then her gaze darted past me, down the hall. Footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate. Two men in dark suits appeared, not administrators, not orderlies, outsiders. Their shoes clicked against the tile with military precision. "Dr. Morgan," one of them said smoothly. "We need a word." Everything in me tensed. Their smiles were polite, but their eyes were cold. Ramirez lowered her head, avoiding my gaze. My stomach dropped. She had called them. They escorted me to a small office near administration, one I'd rarely seen used. Inside, the blinds were drawn, the desk bare except for a folder waiting in the center. The taller man gestured for me to sit. I didn't. "Who are you?" I demanded. "We handle sensitive matters," he replied evenly. He opened the folder, revealing Daniel Cole's chart. My chest tightened, but the file wasn't blank this time. It was thick, stuffed with pages. "Curious," the man said, flipping through. "You weren't even assigned to his case, and yet here you are obsessing." I forced myself to steady my voice. "Why was he erased?" The shorter man chuckled. "Erased is such a dramatic word. Think of it as corrected. Some events are better forgotten." "And the patient in room 12? The one lying in bed right now?" The taller man's eyes flicked up sharply. "There is no room 12 patient." My skin prickled. "Then who whispered my name? Who told me I was supposed to save him?" The two men exchanged a glance, a silent conversation. Finally, the taller one leaned closer. His voice dropped low. "Doctor, let it go, for your sake." The folder snapped shut. They stood, as if the meeting were over. But as I turned to leave, the shorter man whispered something that froze me in place. "Funny thing about Daniel Cole, he kept saying your name too." I left the office with my head spinning, their words gnawing at me. "He kept saying your name too. How could that be possible?" 6 months ago, Daniel Cole had died before I'd ever even entered that room. And yet, he knew me. He had been waiting for me. The corridor stretched long and empty, each fluorescent light humming overhead. I wanted to find Ramirez, to force her to tell me the truth, but she was gone. The nurse's station was deserted, the charts left open, as though everyone had fled mid-task. Room 12 pulled at me like a magnet. My hands shook as I pushed the door open again. The room was no longer empty. Daniel was there. Not lying flat this time, but sitting upright, the ventilator gone, his chest rising on its own. His eyes found mine instantly, hollow yet burning with a terrible clarity. "You let me die," he whispered. My throat went dry. I wasn't even there that night. His lips twisted into something between a smile and a sneer. "You were supposed to be." The monitor at his side beeped steadily, though no wires connected him. The sound burrowed into my skull, each note a pulse of accusation. "Why me?" I demanded. "Why do you keep calling for me?" Daniel tilted his head, the movement stiff, unnatural. "Because you know the truth. You just don't want to see it." A chill crawled down my spine. "What truth?" The overhead lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a split second. When they buzzed back on, Daniel was gone. The bed was empty. But his voice lingered, disembodied, curling through the air like smoke. They killed me, doctor. And now, they're coming for you. I staggered back, heart racing, my breath sharp and shallow. The room was empty again, sterile, silent, normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. I fled to my office, slamming the door shut. My reflection in the glass of the darkened window stared back at me sleepless, haggard, eyes wide. I barely recognized myself. I pulled up Daniel's file again, trying desperately to find what had been hidden. Every system entry spat back nitrogen monoxide data, but one line remained, buried in the digital log, a remnant someone had forgotten to erase. Attending physician of record, Dr. Morgan. My blood ran cold. They had assigned him to me. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Attending physician of record, Dr. Morgan. My name, my responsibility. But I had never signed that chart, never treated Daniel Cole, never even seen him until the night he died. Unless someone had wanted my name there. I found Ramirez in the supply room, restocking 4 bags with shaking hands. She froze when she saw me, as though she'd been expecting me. Why is my name on his file? My voice came out rough, broken. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes darted to the door, making sure we were alone. Because that's how they wrote it. Who? The administrators. The board. Whoever those men were you met earlier. They changed everything after Daniel's death. They put your name down because you weren't there. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense, she whispered, her face pale. They needed someone clean, someone not involved, someone who couldn't testify to what really happened. Her words twisted my stomach. If what she said was true, I wasn't just Daniel's forgotten doctor. I was his scapegoat. Ramirez, I said slowly, what did happen in room 12? Her lips trembled. All I know is Daniel Cole didn't just die. He was silenced. Before I could press further, the overhead lights flickered. The 4 bags on the shelf swayed as if a sudden wind had rushed through the sealed room. A faint beep echoed from the hallway. Both of us froze. It was the sound of a monitor. Not steady, erratic, like a heartbeat stumbling to find its rhythm. I pushed open the supply room door. The hallway was empty, but the sound grew louder, pulling me toward room 12 again. Ramirez clutched my sleeve. Don't go back in there, she begged, but I had to. The door was already ajar, light spilling into the corridor. I stepped inside. The bed was empty yet not untouched. The sheets were wrinkled, indentations carved into the mattress as though someone had just risen from it. My eyes fell to the chart at the foot of the bed. A new page had been added. The handwriting was jagged, frantic. You let them take me. Now they'll take you. My breath caught. My hand trembled as I reached for the paper when a sharp pain stabbed through my wrist. I yanked back my sleeve. Across my skin, faint but unmistakable, was the imprint of a hospital wristband. Blank. Just like his. I rubbed my wrist until the skin turned red, but the imprint didn't fade. A perfect outline of a hospital band, etched into me like a brand. It was blank, just like Daniel's. No name, no number, no identity. For the first time in years, I felt like a patient instead of a doctor. And not just any patient, an unrecorded one, a ghost in the system. I barely noticed Ramirez tugging at my sleeve until she whispered, Jonathan, you're marked. The word made my stomach drop. Marked, like Daniel. I staggered back into the hall, clutching my wrist. The faint beeping of a monitor followed me, though no machines were near. Every light above me flickered as I passed, as if the hospital itself were aware of what I carried. I needed answers. I stormed into administration, ignoring the secretary's protest. The 2 men in suits were waiting, as though they'd expected me. The taller one smiled thinly. "Dr. Morgan, you've seen too much." I slammed my hand on the desk, yanking up my sleeve. "What is this?" For the first time, their expressions cracked. A flicker of recognition and fear. The shorter man muttered, "It's happening again." The taller one leaned forward, his voice low. "Doctor, listen carefully. Daniel Cole was not the first. There have been others. Patients who appeared in records and vanished. Staff who remembered them when they shouldn't." I froze. "And now?" "Now," he said grimly, "it's choosing you." His words made no sense, yet I felt the truth in them. The mark on my wrist throbbed, pulsing in rhythm with the phantom monitor. I tried to steady my voice. "If you erased him, if you erased all of them, then why do they keep coming back?" The taller man's smile returned, colder this time. "Because ghosts don't care about paperwork." I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. Ramirez caught me at the door, eyes wide. "Jonathan, you can't fight this." "Once it marks you," she trailed off, unable to finish. That night, I sat alone in my office, staring at my wrist. The band glowed faintly in the dark, just visible under the skin. And then, as the hospital settled into silence, I heard it again, Daniel's voice, close this time, almost at my ear. "You're one of us now." By the next evening, the hospital no longer felt like a place of medicine. It felt like a stage, and I was the only actor who didn't know his lines. Everyone else, Ramirez, the administrators, even the suits in their press jackets, seemed to already understand what was happening. I was the last one catching up. The wristband mark throbbed constantly, a phantom pulse under my skin. Sometimes I swore I could feel the faint drag of plastic against my wrist, as if a band were really there. And then came the first violent sign. I was reviewing charts in my office when the lights flickered. A sharp clang rang out behind me. My chair spun, nearly toppling, as the cabinet drawers yanked open on their own. Papers scattered across the floor in a frenzy, as though invisible hands were tearing through them. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice cracking. The chaos ceased instantly. The room fell silent again, except for the pounding of my own heart. I bent to gather the papers. Every single one of them was blank. White sheets, as if the records had been scrubbed clean. A sound broke the silence, the unmistakable creak of a gurney's wheels on tile. I froze. The hallway outside was empty when I looked, except for a lone hospital bed rolling slowly toward me. No one pushed it. No one lay on it. The wheels squeaked with each turn, a steady rhythm that echoed down the corridor. At the foot of the bed hung a chart. Against my better judgment, I reached for it. My fingers trembled as I flipped it open. Patient name, Jonathan Morgan. Room 12. The bed lurched toward me, faster now, as though drawn by the simple act of reading. I staggered back, colliding with the wall. "Doctor." The voice came from the empty bed, low and rasping. Daniel's voice. "You were supposed to save me." The gurney slammed into the wall where I stood, the impact rattling my bones. I stumbled aside, the chart falling from my hands. When I looked again, the bed was gone. No squeaking wheels, no papers, just silence. Ramirez found me minutes later, still shaking. She knelt beside me, her face pale. "It's starting," she whispered. "What's starting?" I demanded. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before, not just fear, but resignation. "You're not seeing a ghost anymore. You're becoming him." By the 11th night, I noticed it wasn't just my wrist. The mark had begun to spread faint outlines along my forearm, as if invisible restraints were tightening around me. I scrubbed at my skin until it burned, but the imprint remained, pale and undeniable. The staff noticed too. They tried not to stare, but I saw the glances, the way conversations hushed when I walked into the ward. A few days ago, They had treated me as their attending. Now they treated me like a contagion. During rounds, Henderson muttered under her breath, "He's cursed." She thought I didn't hear, but the word burrowed deep. That night, the charge nurse cornered me in the hallway. "Dr. Morgan, administration wants you relieved from duty until further notice." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow in my throat. Of course they do. First Daniel, now me. Easier to erase people than to face what's happening, isn't it? She didn't answer. She just walked away, leaving me in the flickering glow of the fluorescent lights. I returned to room 12, though I swore I wouldn't. Something about that space pulled at me, no matter how hard I tried to resist. The door creaked open on its own, welcoming me like a mouth ready to swallow. The bed was occupied again. Daniel lay there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. His chest rose and fell, steady, calm. When he turned his head toward me, it felt like looking into a mirror I didn't want. "You feel it now," he whispered. I pressed my fist against my chest. The phantom beeping followed me everywhere. "What are you doing to me?" "I'm not doing anything," Daniel said. His voice was calm, almost pitying. "The hospital is. They decided your name would replace mine. That's how it works here. One forgotten patient for another." My stomach dropped. "No, I'm alive. I'm real." He smiled faintly. So was I. The monitor beside him spiked beep, beep, beep before flatlining. His body dissolved into the sheets, leaving nothing behind. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed me. For a moment, I thought I was alone until I heard voices outside. Staff members, whispering, plotting. "He's unstable. Can't let him near patients. Maybe he should be admitted himself." I pressed my ear to the door. Their footsteps faded, but the words lingered like a diagnosis. They didn't see me as their doctor anymore. They saw me as a patient, and if I stayed here much longer, they'd make sure I never left room 12. They came for me at dawn. I'd been sitting in my office, staring at the imprint on my wrist, when the door burst open. 2 orderlies, flanked by Henderson, stepped inside. Their faces were hard, practiced, the kind of expression staff wear when restraining violent patients. "Dr. Morgan," Henderson said carefully, "you're not well. We're transferring you for evaluation." "Evaluation?" I laughed, but the sound cracked like glass. "You think this is in my head?" I yanked up my sleeve, shoving the glowing outline toward her. "Look at it. Do you see this? Tell me you see it." Her eyes flickered for just a moment recognition, fear, but she masked it quickly. "All I see is a man who hasn't slept in days." The orderlies moved in. My pulse spiked. "No, you're not locking me up in my own ward." I backed toward the desk, my hand brushing the chart I'd hidden there, the one with Daniel's name scrawled across it. I held it up like a weapon. "Read it," I shouted. "Tell me you don't see his name." "Daniel Cole. He was real, and you all erased him." The orderlies lunged. We struggled, papers scattering across the floor. I felt the sting of restraints tightening around my wrists. And then it happened. The mark flared. Heat surged from my skin into theirs. Both men cried out, jerking back as if burned. The restraints dropped. My wrist glowed, brighter now, pulsing like molten metal. Henderson stumbled back, eyes wide. "Oh my God," she whispered. I seized the moment, bolting from the office. My shoes pounded the tile, alarms rising as staff shouted behind me. But I didn't run aimlessly. My feet carried me to the only place that made sense. Room 12. The door swung open before I touched it. The room glowed faintly, the monitor alive again. Daniel sat upright in the bed, waiting. "You see?" he murmured. "They'll never let you go. You're one of us now." I clutched the doorway, breathless. "I'm not you. I won't be you. Daniel tilted his head, eyes dark. They've already decided. The staff, the suits, the hospital, they've written your name in the chart. You're next. And when they lock you in this room, you'll understand. I looked down. On the bed, next to him, lay a wristband. My name etched across it in bold black letters. Morgan Jonathan. And the space for room number already filled in. 12. They caught me before morning rounds. I barely left room 12 when the orderlies cornered me again, this time with security at their backs. There would be no escape. Dr. Morgan, one of them said, voice flat, you're being admitted under psychiatric evaluation. I wanted to fight, to argue, but the truth sat heavy in my chest. To them, I already wasn't their doctor anymore. I was a patient. And patients didn't get a choice. They bound my wrists. I expected the restraints to sear like before, but this time, the mark on my skin welcomed them. The leather straps pressed exactly over the glowing outline, as if they'd been waiting. Ramirez appeared as they wheeled me down the hall. She didn't speak. She didn't even meet my eyes. That silence cut deeper than the restraints ever could. I kept my head up, refusing to look away from the staff gathered in the corridor. Some turned their faces, others whispered. All of them knew what room I was being taken to. Room 12. The door opened. The bed was waiting sheets pulled tight, monitor blinking steadily, an oxygen mask dangling at the side. I dug my heels into the tile, but the orderlies shoved me forward. The chart at the foot of the bed was no longer blank. I caught a glimpse of the first line. Patient. Dr. Jonathan Morgan. They forced me onto the mattress. The straps clicked shut, tight across my arms and legs. I thrashed, shouted, but the sound seemed swallowed by the room. Then the monitor beeped. Not in sync with my heart, too slow, too deliberate. The rhythm of someone else's pulse. I turned my head. Daniel was there. Not across the bed this time. In it, right beside me, strapped down in perfect symmetry. His face pale, eyes half-lidded, but his lips curved into a faint, mocking smile. You took my place, he whispered. I shook my head violently. No, I'm not you. His eyes burned into mine. Not yet. The monitor quickened. The wristband on my arm tightened, the plastic biting into my skin. I twisted, but it held firm, digging deeper. My vision blurred as if the room itself bent around me. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was the chart. Someone had written a final line in fresh ink, the letters jagged but unmistakable, admitted in place of Daniel Cole. I woke to the hiss of oxygen and the steady beep of a monitor. For a moment, I thought I was on call again, drifting off at my desk. But when I opened my eyes, the ceiling above me wasn't my office. It was room 12. The restraints bit into my wrists and ankles. My own monitor blinked beside me, recording vitals I hadn't consented to. The band on my arm felt heavier now, its plastic digging deeper into my skin. When I turned my head, I saw the name clearly. Morgan Jonathan. Room 12. The door opened. Henderson stepped in, flanked by 2 nurses. She held a clipboard, speaking in the same calm, professional tone I had once used with patients. Vitals stable. Patient is oriented but agitated. Continue restraints until further notice. I laughed bitterly. You know who I am, Henderson. You know I don't belong here. She didn't flinch. She just made a note on her clipboard. Patient exhibiting delusional identification. Claims to be a physician. Rage surged in my chest. I am a physician. I've worked with you for years. How dare you stand there? The words choked off. Daniel was in the corner. Not strapped down this time, but standing, watching. His face was calm, almost peaceful, as though he'd been waiting for this exact moment. You see? He murmured, his voice for me alone. They've accepted the trade. You're the patient now. You've always been the patient. I thrashed against the restraints, but the nurses moved quickly, injecting something into my fore. A cool wave spread through my veins, dragging me into heaviness. My vision blurred. "Don't fight it," Daniel whispered, stepping closer. His outline flickered, like a reflection in water. I fought too. It only made it worse. Darkness pulled at the edges of my sight. I forced my mouth to form words. Why me? Daniel leaned over the bed, his face inches from mine. "Because they needed someone, and because you didn't save me." The monitor quickened. My chest rose and fell, but the rhythm wasn't mine anymore. It matched his. When the sedative finally dragged me under, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or awake. All I knew was that in every reflection on the monitor, on the polished floor, I didn't see myself anymore. I saw him. When I woke again, the restraints were gone. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered. Maybe it had all been a nightmare delirium from exhaustion. Maybe I could still walk out of here, reclaim my badge, my name, my life. But then I sat up. The bed I rose from was room 12's. The monitor at my side beeped steadily, not in time with my heart, but in a rhythm I knew too well. Daniel's rhythm. The band on my wrist felt fused to my skin. The letters burned into me. Morgan, Jonathan, room 12. The door opened. Henderson entered, flanked by Ramirez. Both wore guarded expressions. Henderson spoke first. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. How are you feeling today?" My stomach dropped. "Cole?" Ramirez wouldn't meet my eyes. Henderson continued, writing on her clipboard. "Patient is Cole. Responds to name. We'll maintain observation." I staggered from the bed, reaching for Ramirez. "It's me. Jonathan. You know it's me." For the first time, her gaze met mine. Her lips trembled, her eyes wet. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she whispered. "I really am." The floor tilted beneath me. No one listened. No one saw. To them, I wasn't Dr. Jonathan Morgan anymore. I was Daniel Cole, just another forgotten patient, locked in room 12. I stumbled to the mirror above the sink. The face that stared back wasn't mine. Pale, gaunt, hollow-eyed. Daniel's face? "No," I croaked. "No, this isn't real." But his reflection smiled. "You see?" He whispered inside my head. "It was always going to be you." The lights flickered. The monitor flatlined. And when the nurses rushed in, their voices urgent, their hands pressing against my chest, I realized something final and terrible. There was no saving me, because I was never meant to save anyone. I was only meant to replace him. Room 12 had its patient again, and the hospital its secret safe would wait for the next.